He lives in Brisbane and he watches Kai all day. He likes to buy himself a lot of Blu-rays all day. All night, he beats off the porn while watching Dragon Ball. He orders 3 Whoppers and fries at Hungry Jack's, but for some reason he really isn't fat. Okay, alright, let's just fucking start the show. His name is Super Jayain, Jayain. He collects a lot of stuff, and if someday he decides to sell it, it'll be $1 million, but he'll never ever sell it until he is dead, so don't try to steal it from him, cause he'll murder you in cold blood. Hero.
That song was awesome, man. They just keep getting better and better.
They just keep getting better and better, right?
They do.
All right.
They do.
Welcome to Talk Dragon Ball, ladies and gentlemen. I am Geekdom 101, aka D, and then of course you should know by now who I'm joined by, and that's Super Jayain from Down Under. And I'm gonna give you a chance, bro, to promote that little project you're working on your YouTube channel. Everybody, check out Super Jayain's YouTube channel. The link will be below. But you're working on a very, very different kind of series right now, so you have the floor. Let the people know what you're working on.
Okay, so it's like a top 10 countdown over 10 nights, and basically I cover 3 different categories in the top 10, releasing 1 video at a time. And basically the 3 categories that I'm talking about are my top 10 favorite fights, top 10 favorite attacks, and top 10 favorite characters. So I'm basically releasing it 1 video at a time to give the subscribers more content. And it would be a big project to do all of that at once. So.
It's tough, yeah, and it's funny because you're doing it a different way, because you're consolidating the 3 different categories into 1 video. So you've got like your number 10 character, number 10 fight, number 10, and then like the next one, number 9, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I hope it works. I'm trying something different. Trying to be different.
Yeah, it's definitely something different. I don't know anybody on YouTube who's done anything like that. There's different countdowns, of course, throughout YouTube. Especially TJ, he's real good at those. But yeah, he's actually the king of the countdowns in many ways. But your idea is definitely unique and out of left field. So today we are talking about our topic today on Talk Dragon Ball is we're going to talk about death in Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and yes, we're even going to talk a little bit about GT, because one of the criticisms of Dragon Ball that I've talked to people outside of the fan base about, because people have asked me about Dragon Ball outside of the fan base, very smart people, not haters, Jay, these are not haters, and one of the things they've told me that bugs them about Dragon Ball is the fact that characters continuously come back to life, and that death is pretty much like a joke. Like, the minute that I told a buddy of mine that Frieza was coming back for a revival of F, he was like, what do you mean coming back? And I had to explain to him that the character died earlier in the series, and he's like, I don't really like that. Like, do they do that a lot? And I was like, do they do that a lot? Everybody comes back. And he's like, I don't really like that. So there's some criticisms there, bro. Like what are your thoughts just overall on death in Dragon Ball and its impact? Just to start out with, and I'll give you some, I'll lead the conversation to different examples.
Death in Dragon Ball, there's no doubt about, is a 2-way street, and you can't really debate that. You can always come back. It really depends on which arc you're up to, because to me, death really loses its consequence in Dragon Ball after the Saiyan arc. Well, basically when Krillin tells them about how he thinks there's Dragon Balls on planet Namek, that eliminates any, sort of tension of anyone dying and not coming back to life. So after the Saiyans killed some of the Z fighters, that was really sad and really disappointing. But a few episodes later, when Vegeta gets defeated, you find out that Krillin thinks, oh, there might be Dragon Balls on planet Namek. And after that, it's kind of, death from that point on was and still is a 2-way street, and it's really the way it's always going to be in Dragon Ball, in my opinion.
Let's go back to the early kind of real death of a character, and that was Bora. Bora was the first character. Now, there were obviously other deaths of minor characters, but Bora's the first character where Toriyama used Bora as a plot point to become essentially the first death, to explain to the reader the seriousness and the danger that Tao Pai Pai, aka Mercenary Tao, provided for Goku. The challenge that this guy is a ruthless killer. So when you're reading Dragon Ball or you're watching it for the first time, you know, you're not used to seeing this character Tao, and so if you remember, like in the manga and in the anime, they really played this up as like a major death. And then right after, you know, he also becomes the first character that gets brought back with the Dragon Balls. And then after the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, that saga ends with Krillin dying. It segues into the next saga. Like, it's like the bridge to it. It seems like during that era, and even into the early, you know, arc of the Vegeta saga, it seems like death was definitely more serious.
Yeah, I believe I can agree with that. But at the same time, I saw Dragon Ball Z first, and when I watched Dragon Ball, it was kind of backwards for me, obviously. So when I saw Bora die, I was like, well, you know, I know he's going to cut. Like, I didn't know he was going to come back. Like, I didn't know Goku was going to use his wish straight away to wish him back. But yeah, I kind of saw it coming. So unless you watch it for the first time from start to finish, it's really, it's going to lose its impact in a lot of the scenes.
And
maybe they have.
Go ahead. I'll tell you in a minute.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe they need to, like I always bring this up with Super, maybe they need to do something different with the Dragon Balls, similar to what they did in the Shadow Dragon arc, where the Dragon Balls kind of disappear or go away for a while.
Well,
that could be it. Yeah.
Well, Toriyama did use that too later on, but to your point, a lot of fans who got into Dragon Ball with Dragon Ball Z, you really have to to understand this, you have to put yourself in the mentality of somebody who has never seen it before. You know, like you said, you knew that Bora was coming back, and obviously you know Krillin comes back because you saw Dragon Ball Z first. But like I've said this before with my fiance, she's never seen any of this before, so she's watching Dragon Ball for the first time. She was pissed when Bora died, and she was really pissed when Krillin died, and it's very interesting to get these reactions from these people. So you really have to almost like mentally check out and kind of put yourself back into, you know, 1988 when these events took place. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's very hard to do, but it's more of an impact, you know, to do it, which is why if anybody wants to get into Dragon Ball now and they ask me how do I get into it, do it the right way, start to finish. So one of the things I'm going to ask you about this here in a second, one of the things Toriyama started to do with Dragon Ball Z, and I have a video coming up in a I don't know exactly when it's going to drop, but it is finished, it's edited and everything, about the Dragon Balls themselves, and we talk about this in the video, or I talk about it, and that's the fact that Toriyama had to put limitations on the Dragon Balls in order to make death kind of become a more serious thing. Because, you know, in Dragon Ball, when Krillin dies and Chaozu dies and Roshi dies, they all get brought back at the end of the Piccolo arc. So at this point, the viewer has no idea about any of the rules of the Dragon Balls, and all of a sudden it's like we find out at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, the very beginning, we find out that Roshi and Krillin cannot be brought back because the dragon cannot grant the same wish twice. So already we're seeing it like, okay, that's very smart of Toriyama, right? Where now it's different. Now, if these characters die, they can't come back. The problem is, as you said, when he introduced that second set of Dragon Balls on another planet, it kind of nullified that rule. It made it less impactful. It's like he had to do it to keep the story going, but at the same time, it kind of retroactively hurt the impact of the Z Fighters dying.
Yeah. No, that's it. The only other part of the story that you could perhaps argue has that sort of same impact is Trunks' future. And a lot of people say, well, Trunks could just go to Namek and get the Dragon Balls.
We were going to talk about that on a different video down the line,
Yeah, but that possibly, that could be the only part of the story I can think of after the Namek arc where the death really has consequence in Trunks' future. He's by himself. There's no one to help him. So he has to build a time machine to go back. And although there was Dragon Balls in the past he was going to, it was still a different story. And he needed to do something different to attain using the Dragon Balls, basically. So I always liked that arc, or Trunks' future, basically, for that reason, because it was different. And death did have consequence. And the androids, even though you didn't get to see a lot of Trunks' future, the androids were a fearsome opponent in his future because they just wanted to kill everyone they came across, and they couldn't be brought back. That was it.
Yeah, and that's a very good point that he used the whole Terminator idea for that. Also, in two separate instances during Dragon Ball, actually, yeah, two separate times, the Dragon Balls become pretty much are a non-factor. Like the Dragon Balls go away. One of them is when Piccolo kills the dragon in Dragon Ball, and then Goku has to ascend to the Kami's little heaven, is what they call it initially, but it's basically Kami's lookout, and find Kami, and then Kami would create the new Dragon Balls. We didn't even know Kami existed until Karin told him. And again, this is if you're watching the series start to finish, totally different kind of story. You really have to kind of look at it that way. You don't even know anything about Kami. You don't know nothing. You don't even know he exists, right?
Yeah.
So at that point, Dragon Balls were gone. And then again, actually 3 times. I apologize, 3 times, because when Piccolo dies, when Nappa kills him, that's another one where the Dragon Balls are gone. And then the 3rd time is when Piccolo fuses with Kami, and it's like the Dragon Balls go away for a while, but then they come back somehow, and then here we go again. To me, though, Jay, I want to get your thoughts on this. I think that the more the series progressed, and this is going to segue into our topic about Dragon Ball Super, the more the series progressed, the less serious that I took death. Like, honestly, like the drama kind of slowly, and people don't want to admit this, but it's true when you look at it, the drama started to slip a little bit, because by the time we got to the Buu arc, pretty much everybody died, the whole planet blew up, and it's like, whoa, like it was a shocking moment, don't get me wrong, but we also kind of just a few episodes before that saw the old Kai just literally give Goku his life so he can come back and fight Buu, and then he just pops right back up and smiles, and then at that point I feel like death really became a joke, like right then and there. That was where it was like, by the time we got to the Buu saga, it really didn't matter. And then, of course, the Dragon Balls were overpowered in many ways in the Buu saga.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I was going back to the Cell saga to get back to our last point. Going into the Cell games, I think it would have been much better if when Kami and Piccolo fused, they didn't get Dende to become the new Guardian, simply because of going into the Cell games with that overbearing feeling if someone could die and there's no way of bringing them back. Of course, at that point, in a way, the planet was more at risk than an individual, but it's still, it would have been, I think it would have put more suspense in the Cell games for characters like, I don't know, Yamcha
like
or Tien or Trunks. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that would have really hit home if someone died during the Cell, or even going into the Cell games, you'd be really worried about the safety of the Z fighters, like your favorite character. You don't want them to die because there's no Dragon Balls, sort of thing. So yeah, I always thought that would have been a better story writing if they didn't make Dende the Guardian straight away, but perhaps right before the time skip, maybe. Or
maybe. I mean, the thing is that I would have wondered if with no Dragon Balls, if they could. Well, I guess they could have just wished Trunks back with the first wish, but which they did do anyway. So you know what? It's a good idea. I kind of agree with you in that sense. But the reason they did it is because, like Goku said, we got during the 9-day break, we got to get this ready now for all the people that might die. So that was actually good thinking on the Z Fighters' part to be ready for what was going to happen. But you're right in that it did kind of take away some of the drama, knowing that they had the Dragon Balls in the back pocket. And that's kind of the thing. Like, I almost feel like after the Frieza saga, it really started a decline, man. Like, Toriyama tried, fusing Kami and Piccolo, Dragon Balls go away. That was one. But in the Frieza arc, you can kind of really tell that was like the last time there was really a struggle for the Dragon Balls, and that was also the last story arc, if you really pay attention, where the actual story arc was about the Dragon Balls. It wasn't about eventually it also became about the Frieza and his character and his hatred for Vegeta and Goku and all that, but the first half of that saga, the Namek arc, was all about them, Krillin would get 1 ball, Gohan would get 1 ball, Vegeta would get 1 ball, Frieza had like 4, and they would go back and forth. That was the last time the show really kind of felt like it was a hunt for the Dragon Balls. After that, it just kind of used them for convenience.
Yeah. Here we go. I got an idea, and I'm gonna pull a U here, and I'm basically gonna say they fucked up, bro. I'm gonna say that. Would you usually say that? I'm gonna say it. I have an idea, and I'm gonna quickly run it by you. Say they only use 1 wish, and that was, I don't know, they didn't wish Piccolo back. Somehow they managed. I'm just spitballing here, but basically what I'm trying to say is the Dragon Balls get destroyed with Namek, and then there's no way for Yamcha to come back. There's no way for Tien or Chiaotzu to come back. There's no way for Krillin to come back. If they eliminated the Dragon Balls on Namek, Earth would have no Dragon Balls. That would kind of defeat the purpose of the show being called Dragon Ball Z, but that would have been really, really interesting to see a direction that they take with that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it would have kind of been like a big, like it would have kind of just changed everything. I mean, but you're right, it would have been weird to call it Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z without the Dragon Balls.
Yeah.
But that's kind of another case, bro, to where you could make an argument that the Frieza saga kind of was the best time to end the show. I know that Torishima came out and said that recently in an interview about a month ago, that he felt that the Frieza saga should have been the end of Dragon Ball. And there's a lot of debate about that. Some people think that story-wise that Frieza saga was the best ending, and then also the Cell saga was also the best ending. Most people will kind of agree. People who really understand storytelling will tell you that the storytelling really peaked in those two sagas, but then after that kind of took a step down in the Buu saga.
If I had my opinion and my way, and they got asked if I was the editor and I take all my bias out of it with all my favorite Vegeta moments later that happen in the show, I would end it at the end of the Frieza arc personally. Like this is not what I want to do, but if I got asked to have to end it on one of the arcs, end it there, because Goku, if you watch it from the start of Dragon Ball to the end of Namek, it's like the perfect story. Yeah, Frieza gets defeated. Frieza's been defeated. He's like the galactic overlord the
guy who put him on Earth to begin with in a roundabout way, right?
Basically, yeah, the galactic overlord is finally slain, and then Goku vanishes with a dying planet. Like, how epic is that ending? You know what I mean? Like, that's one of my favorite scenes in Dragon Balls, when you think Goku died with Namek. Like, that's so powerful, but then you find out he didn't die. It's kind of like, I'm happy he came back, but it was so much more dramatic when you thought Goku vanished or banished with that planet, whatever you want to say. When you thought he was dead when Planet Namek blew up, it was a really powerful scene.
I agree, and there's an argument that can be made. I mean, a lot of the fans, they love their fusions and they love their future Trunks, and I love it too. I'm not gonna disagree, but we're talking about telling a story that really is like the best end of the story. But now let's talk about GT just a little bit here before we wrap it up about Death and GT. GT kind of, I mean, I gotta be honest with you on this one, dude. There's a Kwame line right there. I gotta be honest with you. That's what he says like every sentence.
Yeah, he says that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, when you talk to him, that's when you talk to him off of YouTube. He says that. But I gotta be honest with you. GT kind of, and this is another Kwame thing right here. GT kind of saved it a little bit, because when Piccolo dies, the reason why he decided to kill himself or whatever and die with the planet was because he feels like he was responsible, because the original, Kami Piccolo fused character that came from Namek was the guy who created the Black Star Dragon Ball. So if he did not die, the Dragon Balls would still exist, even though somehow the Earth came back. Whatever. GT's a mess. But when they killed Piccolo off in that arc, that was also kind of like them saying, okay, and that's Toei, not Toriyama. They're kind of saying, okay, this guy's gone for good. And even though GT would be over not too long after that, he never came back. I mean, he made a cameo, but he never came back to alive. Yeah,
that's it. You only see him at the end, in that cameo where Goku goes to visit him in hell. But there was some good storytelling in GT, but it doesn't really solve the whole. It doesn't make death kind of go away.
So okay, then I'm gonna throw this one at you then, bro. Dragon Ball Super. What can you do, or what do you think you can do to make death matter again? And should they actually kill somebody off permanently?
I'll go. Yes, they should kill someone off permanently. I'm not going to say who, because that's not up to me. That's up to the writers. But I honestly think to do something with the Dragon Balls, they need to find a way, like I said earlier, to take the Dragon Balls away. How they go about doing that, I'm not too sure. I didn't mind. One of the best things to come out of GT, in my opinion, was the Shadow Dragon arc and the whole fact that the Dragon Balls were overused, because it is brought up in Dragon Ball Z that the Dragon Balls should not be overused. Or that was not specifically stated. Yeah, but the old Kai says
the old Kai says it. Yeah.
He says they should only be used in special cases, as I believe is the line he uses.
And he says that he warned the Namekians like 15 million years ago about it, which I talked about that in my video, which is coming up later. But yeah.
So if that's an idea that really, when you think about it, it originates from Z. Toriyama thought of that in Z. So the thing there is, that's why I like that arc in GT, because it is kind of a good. I think the Shadow Dragon arc, although it wasn't executed the way a lot of the fans would have liked, me being one of them, it's definitely the best arc, and it has the strongest storytelling in Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball GT. So that could be an idea, that the Dragon Balls get overused, and rather than doing the repeat of the Shadow Dragon sort of thing, because I know they're not going to do that. Maybe just have the Dragon Balls vanish, and then they go see Dende, and Dende can't explain why they've vanished, and then they have to go into this whole mythology or speak to someone. Piccolo might be able to tell them why the Dragon Balls have vanished. You know what I mean? Like something like that, where the Dragon Balls just vanish and they don't come back for a long time.
Well, also the other idea was that if they do make Dragon Ball Super take place in one of the other universes for one of the sagas or whatever, the Dragon Balls may not work in that universe. So I think that also works too, because it seems like the Dragon Balls will work. I just have a funny feeling that if they do explore the 12 universes, that the Dragon Balls are not going to be able to work in any of the universes but the ones that they were created in. So I think it's going to be a problem if they go to the other universes and somebody dies, then they try to summon Shenlong, and Shenlong says, I can't bring them back to life. Why? Because they don't exist in this universe.
Yeah,
well, that's trippy shit right there, bro.
Yeah, it is. But put it this way: ask yourself this: if the Z Fighters in the main timeline summoned Shenron and asked him, "Can you revive all of our alternate timeline counterparts in Trunks' timeline?" I don't think the dragon would be able to grant that wish.
Well, if it's within a year, but the thing is, though, some of those characters have already died once, so
yeah. I'm just speaking hypothetically here. I should have specified that. Hypothetically, I don't think he would be able to wish those characters back, because I think, he's limited to his dimension in a way, which is what we discussed in that video with cheating with the Dragon Balls.
Yeah, that was a couple weeks ago. And here's the thing, man, and again, people, I'm very excited for Dragon Ball Super, but I am also very concerned, only because with Dragon Ball Super, I really want this story to just be like a really good story, and I think that if they don't come up with ways to build that drama to where we as in my opinion, of course, only if they can't find a creative way to build drama to where we as the audience watch this show and say, okay, Goku or Vegeta or whomever is going to be in this show, which they're going to be in it, but whoever is involved in a fight or in some kind of problem, they might actually die this time. It's good. It's tricky because they've kind of played, they have played the boy who cried wolf as far as death goes. That's the bottom line. That's what this whole video is about. Yeah. They've done it. You even agree with me. So they got to figure out a way not to do that anymore. And it's going to take a lot of re-educating of the audience.
I'd just basically say in Dragon Ball, death is a two-way street, because it really is. You know what I mean? So you die, you come back. That's
maybe they should have somebody die and then really die. Remember how they said that if you die in the other world, you die permanently? They could do something like that. But then again, that might have been a filler scene. I don't really remember. But but again, it's just fuck, bro. It
was. No, it wasn't filler scene, because Goku said that to Vegeta in the manga when Vegeta was about to step in for Goku.
That's right, the Kid Buu fight.
Yeah.
That's right. He told him that in the Janemba movie too, also, I believe. So they knew what was going on.
And it was also brought up when Krillin and Yamcha were about to be killed by Kid Buu. Yamcha says to Krillin, "If we die again," and then Krillin goes, "I know."
Your favorite scene in Kai, you mean, right?
They fucked up the end of the Kai. They fucked up the end of Kai. That's all I can say. But I still like Kai. I still love Kai. They just fucked up the Buu saga for it. That's all.
It doesn't make any sense. But all right. Well, thank you again, Jay, for joining me with one of these topics. And Super Jayain, Jayain is the channel. Subscribe and check out Jay's top 10 series.
Yeah, and I just want to point out as well, and even though a lot of people won't see this, I did make a blunder in my number 10 video. I actually stated that 18 used the Destructo disc on Goten and Trunks, and I said Budokai Tenkaichi when it's Tenkaichi Budokai she used it at.
You were thinking about the video game, right?
I was thinking about the video game, so I apologize for that if anyone picks that up. If they watch this and then go to watch that, I apologize for that.
It's weird because that the naming for that game is all jacked up because, first of all, you're right. Budokai Tenkaichi makes no sense. You're basically saying tournament under the world, which sounds kind of cool, but like, or under the heavens, but it's not the right. It just doesn't make sense. Like you're saying it backwards. But also in the Japanese version of those games, because a lot of fans think that Budokai Tenkaichi is actually a sequel to the Budokai games, and that's not even the same series. In Japan, it was Dragon Ball Z Sparking Meteor, and Sparking Neo. Yeah, and I'm curious about why they didn't just call it Sparking. I mean, I know it's from the Head Shala song, but Sparking is not even that bad of a name. Dragon Ball Z Sparking, Budokai Tenkaichi is just confusing.
Yeah, but I apologize for that blunder. I do know that I made that mistake, but yeah, it's not really a big mistake. I just thought I'd point it out to anyone who goes and watches that video after this video.
I hope you haven't made any more mistakes.
Nah, man, just that one. Just that one.
All right, good. All right, well, everybody makes mistakes. We all do. Yeah. Well, thank you again, and thanks, everybody, for listening to our show. Of course, spread the word about both our channels. Help us out. Help us get a real good conversation going. And, of course, in the comment section, let us know your thoughts. Do you think that death is kind of a joke in Dragon Ball? And more importantly, what I really want to know is, do you think that, or do you have an idea? Because we have a lot of creative people who watch these videos, who I do respect a lot, and they'll come up with some idea that I would never even think of. Is there an idea of how they can kind of re-educate the audience to accept death as a serious thing again in Super? Yeah. So let us know. Anything else, Jay?
No, that's it. Thanks. I really appreciate you letting me do this video, man. So I always enjoy doing these, and I enjoy doing them for your subscribers and for my subscribers as well. I love doing these videos.
All right, and we will catch you down the road.